Sarah is the Movebank PI and data curator for the Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior. She is a go-to expert in the wild labs and conservation communities for all things movement data related, working hard to make these data accessible now and into the future. Sarah is also a member of our advisory committee for the Tracking Progress project and will be providing a brief introduction to the topic and relevant questions today ahead of the other speakers. Sarah.
All right, can you see the slide and hear me okay?
We can. Take it away.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I am just going to briefly welcome you all. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to briefly kind of give some context and questions that we can think about during our talks and discussions today. Oh, did it work? Did it switch? Okay, good. So in movement ecology, we have a huge number of places where we are successfully sharing and archiving data. And our speakers today are going to give some really fabulous stories and examples of how we're doing that. And with our existing infrastructure, we are running global acoustic and radio telemetry systems. We are developing and using shared software and programs for data analysis. We're meeting data sharing requirements for journals, funders, and permitting agencies. And we are running countless collaborations for research and conservation. And we also have produced a number of kind of larger synthesis projects that are offering new data products and are really advancing our understanding of animal behavior and movements on large scales. I will say, however, these are still very slow. These take years in my experience and from talking with others. And it's okay if it takes a long time because we're doing the science, right? It takes a long time to do this kind of integrated science. But a lot of the time is a lot of it is still spent arranging data sharing and organizing the data. And so I would argue we still have significant technical and policy hurdles to connecting data and people at scale. And so why does that matter? That matters because we're experiencing many overlapping and rapid changes, and we need to be able to document, recognize, and respond to these more quickly. And I see a ton of potential for this in movement ecology. And then as far as archiving goes, in my experience, most data sharing in movement ecology is still done on a case-by-case basis. And in most cases, there's not a plan for how those data will be made available for future generations. And so a couple of indications that suggest to me that much of these data will be inaccessible within, say, a decade or two. One, on Movebank, it's just under 9%, this is pretty consistent, of studies in Movebank that allow, public download. And that would be kind of the gold standards for assuring future access. There's a paper by Campbell et al. That looked at data permitted for tracking studies in New Zealand. And they found that years after, it was less than 9% of data when they went online were able to find those data available for public viewing or download. And so I will also argue that we have one reason for these challenges is that we have no shared community standards for data discovery, storage, transfer, or archiving. And by community standards, I mean ones that we could use across political and taxonomic boundaries, that we could use across platforms, and that would allow participation, open participation in development. And we do have some that have been proposed, but they've not been widely implemented. So some things to think about today. One is, how can we be learning from or working with other fields that are using similar technology and data? This came out a couple of weeks ago. This is the Economist Technology Quarterly, and it's all about human wearable sensors. So this kind of concept is going mainstream, and I see a lot of opportunity for us to maybe leverage this interest for conservation and ecology. Second, how do we balance data openness with maximizing participation? And so in particular, when it comes to sensitive data, how do we determine what data are sensitive? And how do we ensure long-term and secure archiving for those? Second is all those many data platforms I showed on the first slide, those exist in part because they're offering really helpful resources for specific groups or projects, and they're designed around those. However, having our data dispersed across so many places is making it harder to find and use them. And so what types of shared standards or policies could complement existing efforts? And then finally, how can we coordinate and finance these? Because I think this is maybe the big question that we often end up stuck at. So I will leave it at that, and let's get started with our speakers. Thank you.